Hello, so this video is quite delayed. I wasn't feeling great. Nothing serious, I was just a bit blech. So I didn't get round to finishing it. Going to be discussing E3, EA Play, what might be the new console generation coming up, and a look at Activision and the way it's been promoting Call of Duty. Like I say, it is delayed because I was feeling a bit poorly and it doesn't take much to knock me about at the moment. And it's why the title's changed from weekly view to Blindman's view, so I've got a bit more flexibility as to when I make these videos. I don't have to make one every week. Or I can make 2 a week if I want to. So, let's jump to the pre-recorded content from last week and some old Battlefield 4 footage. Right, so let's talk about E3 and EA Play. So the first thing to say really was that EA Play wasn't a separate event. It was part of E3. It was just run from a separate venue, so they didn't have to hire out hall space. And one of the major things we learnt from EA Play is that, man, there are a lot of games running the Frostbite engine now, even down to Madden and FIFA. One game that hasn't moved to Frostbite is Titanfall 2, and that's because Titanfall 2 looks to be Titanfall with some mods on it. In fact, Titanfall 2 appears to be what we originally promised from Titanfall, because Titanfall was supposed to have a single player and that was cut, and it was supposed to have more features, but they were cut, and that was all because they needed to get the game out early. So if, like me, you didn't like Titanfall because it was a bit repetitive after a couple of hours, then you're probably not going to like Titanfall 2. So what games at E3 did I like the look of? Well, Civilization 6, because it appears they're going back to basics. Civilization 4 was a great game. Civilization 5 had a lot of features stripped out and then they sold them back to you. But because of the backlash they received from that, they're actually launching Civilization 6 with more of the original features in it. We have a couple of interesting looking stealth games. We have Dishonored 2, which appears to be more Dishonored. And because Dishonored was a great game, more Dishonored is a good idea. You don't really have to change the formula early on in a series if your series actually works. For Titanfall, maybe they should have changed things up a bit more, but for Dishonored, yeah, just give me more Dishonored and I'll play it. Although my favourite stealth game from E3 is Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Essentially, Dishonored and Mankind Divided come at the same world from different directions. One's a Victorian steampunk, one's a futuristic cyberpunk, but essentially they're very similar games, but I do really like the Deus Ex storyline, so that is the one that I'm most likely to play and enjoy. A game I was hoping to see at E3, but again we didn't get to see any of it, was Cyberpunk 2077. Now we know this is CD Projekt Red's next game after The Witcher 3, and we had a trailer for it 2 years ago, and it was a really good trailer, but we didn't see it at E3 2015, we haven't seen it at E3 2016, so we're probably not going to be seeing Cyberpunk 2077 released this year or next year, I wouldn't have thought. Hopefully we'll get some more information soon, because if you go to their website, it still pretty much just has that 2-year-old trailer on it. We know this game's in development, we know it's supposed to be bigger than The Witcher 3, but we haven't got to see it. So, CD Projekt Red, show us some 2077. The next thing to talk about from E3 are the next-gen consoles, and there appears to be a big divergence between the two companies. Sony appear to be making their PlayStation Neo, which is another iteration of the PlayStation with its own VR expansion and its own VR headset and its own controllers. So Sony want to keep you locked into buying their products, which has worked for them in the past, and it does mean that everything is reliable and stable. Microsoft's Project Scorpio would appear to be a bit different, because the rumour for Project Scorpio is it's a PC. Yep, you heard me, it's a PC running Windows 10. Now when you load it up, it's going to look like an Xbox with Xbox Live and all the Xbox features, because it's going to be an operating system designed to be run with a controller. Now this is all rumour, but it is based on Microsoft's recent actions of trying to combine the Xbox Live experience with the Windows 10 store, and having games that you bought for the Xbox available in Windows 10. But the biggest reason people think this might be a PC is there's been some pictures of a weird motherboard. Now it wasn't a PC form factor motherboard and it wasn't a laptop motherboard, but it had an i7 processor and an Nvidia 1070 graphics card, all built onto one board. If your console had a specification like that, you wouldn't need to develop your own VR system, you could just put a HDMI port on it and run an Oculus Rift. put a couple of good USB ports on it, and you can connect it to external drives and you can connect it to external graphics cards. You don't need to develop any of your own hardware. You can basically just make a PC in a box, brand it as an Xbox, make it cheap, and then Now these are all rumours and speculation, but Microsoft did say that their new console was going to have 6 teraflops of graphics processing, and that's what a 1070 has. And they haven't announced their own VR system. So the new Xbox being more of a PC base and able to run existing VR seems to make sense. And when you think about it, Sony are a hardware manufacturer and Microsoft are a software developer, so both strategies seem to make sense. So that's it for E3. Now let's get on to a less happy subject. So, you remember a few years ago that EA got into a bit of trouble because of its Ronku program, where it was basically paying YouTubers who were making Battlefield videos and they weren't disclosing that they were getting paid by EA to make them. Well, there's a very similar thing appears to be happening with Activision, except Activision has been dodging around the law somewhat by not paying individual Call of Duty players, but by paying Machinima, and then Machinima was paying its Call of Duty players to promote the game. So in effect, Activision has an advertising agreement with Machinima. Machinima already has an agreement with its Call of Duty players, and so nobody really has to declare anything. Now this was kind of revealed by Whiteboy 7th Street, who's a Call of Duty player and YouTuber, who put out a Twitter video basically saying this is what was happening, particularly with Call of Duty Ghosts in his case, I think, because he was offered money by Machinima but had been blocked by Activision from promoting their products, so therefore couldn't accept it and wasn't under a non-disclosure agreement. Now this was all hearsay until a copy of the agreement appeared which had the terms and conditions that YouTubers would have to meet. Then of course somebody just went back and looked at all the old Call of Duty Ghost videos and discovered, oh yes, all these videos are meeting those terms and conditions. And it appears as if this process has carried on into the latest Call of Duty releases, with lots of people being paid to turn up to events, being paid to promote Call of Duty, and even being given free Call of Duty points or whatever they're called so that they can buy supply drop boxes and open them up, trying to make opening supply boxes look easy and fun, and therefore everybody wants to do it. Except of course for people who aren't getting freebies from Activision, the easy way to do it is to actually pay for them. Now EA's Ronku program still runs, and in fact you'll see it across the front of a video that is being sponsored by EA. But Activision, who appear to be running a very similar program, have kept theirs undercover. Now this is all rumour and there's lots of allegedlys and apparentlys. So, it is alleged that Activision may be running a program that if they did run it to promote Call of Duty games would be illegal. So that's the story and the rumours going around about Activision, Machinima and Call of Duty promotions. And that's pretty much it for this video. So at the moment I'm doing fine. Healing process is going along smoothly. If you don't hear any news, then just consider that everything is going okay. Thanks for watching.